Hey gamers. So I was scrolling through my YouTube feed, as I tend to do as a little YouTube fiend, and a video came across my YouTube homepage by a channel called Easy Speezy. They do speedruns on most games. I feel like they just pick a game and they do a little speedrun on it, and honestly it seems like a lot of fun. And the video that I saw was for a game called... Now, for those of you out there who are like, Plants vs. Zombies, I don't know what Plants vs. Zombies is. 1, I fear for your childhood, and 2, let me explain. Plants vs. Zombies is a pretty standard tower defense game where, as normal, you plant plants on your lawn to defend yourself from zombies who are trying to eat your brains. As zombies do. Now the game gets more complicated as you go on and adds new seed packets every single level until it gets out of hand and you end up at the end with a bunch of crazy weird plants that do a bunch of fun stuff. It's great. It's a great fun time. Not the game that you'd expect to speedrun though, because you don't know how to speedrun Plants vs. Zombies, do you? Imagine. But don't worry, I'm here to teach you the speedrun for Plants vs. Zombies. Because I learned it in 1 week. And this is my journey. Alright, so before we get into the real meat and potatoes of this video, I want to lay out 2 things. Number 1, what are our goals? We have 3 goals set out. 1, beat Easy Speezy's time in their video, because I am petty. 2, get into the top 100 on speedrun.com for Plants vs. Zombies. And 3, get a sub 4-hour time. These are our 3 goals. I would like to complete all of them, and we'll see how well I do. Number 2, how am I gonna tell you guys how to speed run Plants vs. Zombies? And more accurately, how am I gonna put a week worth of speedruns into 1 video? Well, here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to show you in entirety our first entire run, and I'm going to explain how the speedrun works with our first run. And then from there, with every subsequent run, of which there are 2 more, we will look at the problems with the first run, fix them as we go until hopefully I end up with a time that I can be proud of. Alright, that's enough rambling. Let's get into the first run. Alright, so this first level is essentially just an RNG check. How fast will the sun fall down from the sky? There's only 1 lane, so there's not much variation to how you can place the plants. So while we speed through this level, I would like to explain to you what could possibly be, no, definitely is, the most important part about speedrunning Plants vs. Zombies. And arguably, the only reason the speedrun is a speedrun at all. The 50% rule is the rule at the very center of Plants vs. Zombies speedrunning, and here is how it works. Plants vs. Zombies is a game built out of waves, and every single wave has a cumulative health. That is the health of every zombie that spawns in the wave. When this health reaches 35 to 50% depending on RNG, the next wave will spawn. This is the 50% rule, and this is the rule that enables the entire speedrun. Now there is one exception to this rule, and that is the last wave before a huge or final wave must be finished in its entirety before that wave will spawn. And look, perfect timing, because we just got the sunflower and are moving our way to level 2. Alright, on to 1-2, where I get to talk about another very important thing in these speedruns, and that is spamming the sunflower. Now it doesn't come up as much in this first level, but you will see it in almost every single level that we play, and that is that sun is king. Sun enables us to spam high cost plants in late game to deal with larger waves that have higher cumulative health pools so that we can go through faster. One of these high cost plants comes to us at the end of this level, the cherry bomb. Cherry bomb, all right. Now that we have the cherry bomb, I'm going to take 1-3 to talk to you about a category of plant that is incredibly important to the speedrun: instants. And these plants are one of the main reasons why having a lot of sun is important, because the more instant kill plants that you can place, the faster you can go through waves, and that's what the speedrun is all about. In the case of the cherry bomb, it can be used to clear an entire 3x3 area of zombies. Incredibly powerful, only blocked off by its high sun stun cost, and also its slow reload time. Nonetheless, we show off the cherry bomb for the first time by clearing the entire final wave of 1-3. Oh no, I accidentally paused. Now on to 1-4, where I don't do anything particularly interesting, but I would like to take this time to mention something important. This is my first time doing the Plants vs. Zombies speedrun, which means that some things that I should be doing, I do not do or do wrong. And instead of mentioning those now, when we go through the first one and just pretending like I did it right, I am going to mention them when I do them right in the runs to come. No particular reason why I'm saying it here or anything, but just keep it in mind. 1-5 brings us Walnut Bowling, our first minigame stage of the run. Minigame stages happen on the 5th level of every given world, and they're usually just a shake-up from the norm, and usually use a conveyor belt. These are also used for the final waves. Yes! Oh, I'm so happy to see my boy. Now, as you can tell from my excitement, I'm pretty happy to have my good friend, the Potato Mine. Potato Mine is like the Cherry Bomb in instant, but as you can see, is only 25 sun, meaning that you can pretty much always have one up. Now, not all too much to say about 1-6, 7, 8, and even 9, really, other than that we pick up a couple interesting plants along the way. First of which, in 1-7, is the Chomper, which makes its niche in being a high cost but low cooldown instant, so if you have the sun to throw at it, it's good to clear high health zombies. And in 1-8, we pick up the repeater, which we will use here once in 1-9, but will become a staple in worlds like the pool. Other than that though, not really much to say about how I play this one. We kind of just grind through the levels and we make our way to our first final level. Now, as I mentioned before in the Walnut Bowling level, every final level will use a conveyor belt. This means that, largely speaking, a lot of these final levels is up to chance. Do you get the plants that you want? That also means that there's not a whole lot for me to talk about. You get a random selection of pea shooters, repeaters, cherry bombs, walnuts, you know, the usuals, and you just gotta try and cleave through the waves as fast as you can. Now, this, as well as most final levels, is pretty easy, which is good because we've spent enough time on the first world. It's time to move on to night. Okay. All right, on to World 2. There are only 2 real gimmicks to World 2. One, sun no longer falls from the sky, so getting enough sun to place those high value instants that we were using a lot in the first world is going to be a little bit more tricky. And 2, the world now spawns little graves. You cannot place any plants on the graves, and on the final wave of every given level, every grave that is currently standing will produce a zombie. Now, the levels in this world are pretty short, so to save some time, I figured I would try and lightning round through every single one of these levels so that I can save you some time and me some time. Let's go. World 2-1 is very simple. Spam Puff Shroom. We got Puff Shroom at the very end of the last world, and it is essential in every single level in Night. World 2-2, very similar. Continue to spam Puff Shroom, but now we have Sun Shrooms, which will be our new sun producers here in Night. In World 2-3, we now have the Fume Shroom, which is our new higher DPS but higher sun option for doing damage here in Night. It can hit multiple enemies at once, so we'd like to place those when we can, but otherwise, plant those puffs, baby. World 2-4, we have the Grave Buster, which gets rid of those pesky little graves up front and frees up those spaces for our beautiful Puff Shrooms. Level 2-5 is our special minigame level. This time, whack a zombie. Just hit those zombies and bust those graves. Level 2-6 has the Hypno Shroom. We use the Hypno Shroom whenever there is an all-star zombie. They are very powerful. They'll eat my precious Puff Shrooms. Gotta get rid of them. Level 2-7, we use the Scaredy Shroom. The Scaredy Shroom only costs 25 sun, the only drawback being that if any zombie gets too close to it, it hides away, making it do 0 damage. Other than that, spam Scaredy Shrooms, spam Fume Shrooms, and you better believe we're spamming Puff Shrooms. Level 2-8, nothing changes because the Ice Shroom sucks. And level 2-9, we finally use one of our best instants in the entire game, the Doom Shroom, which ostensibly clears the entire map, the only drawback being that you can no longer place on the square that it is blown up for a given amount of time. And there we go, one successful lightning round later, and we're at the second final level. This one, like the one in World 1, is largely up to chance, relying on the conveyor belt to give us the plants that we need in the times that we need them. That being said, there isn't really much to say about this last level, you know? We get the same usual suspects that we've been spamming for this entire world. Off Shroom, Fume Shroom, Scaredy Shroom, Doom Shroom, Hypno Shroom, Ice Shroom. All the usual suspects of night. Yeah, but yeah, not much to say here. Let's move right along to our next world. Bam. Oh, that was perfectly timed. Okay, now we're at the third world, which is Pool. Pool has 6 rows opposed to the normal 5, and also, I don't know if you noticed this, there's just like a big old strip of water through the middle that you can only place on if you have lily pads. Now, despite this gimmick, these levels aren't actually too crazy. We have a couple very specific seed layouts that we're gonna use for most of these levels, and we'll go over them now. At level 1 here, we're using pretty much the same seed layout that we used on 1-9. The only difference is now we have an extra seed slot that's being taken up by the lily pad. As we mentioned before, we can't place on the pool unless we have a lily pad. Now, I know I said I wouldn't backseat this run, but realistically, I should have brought a pea shooter instead of a repeater. A repeater is way too expensive for just a 1 flag. Pea shooter would have been a superior choice here. Not too much to say here though, other than that, and that at the end of this level, we get a plant that we are going to use in almost every level for the rest of the game. The squash. Squash! Oh yeah, I think that finally replaces the piranha plant. Now, it might not replace the chomper, Maxim, but it will be used in almost every single level that we can possibly use it going forward. The squash is an instant, and as you've seen from every other instant that we've gotten pretty much, this is an important plant. With the cost of only 50 sun, the only thing that holds you back from using it consistently is its longer reload time. But because it squashes, not just eats one like the chomper, it can get rid of a few problematic zombies in one square if you time it right. However, other than the squash, not all that much happens in Pool. In 3-2 and 3-3, we use the exact same seed layouts. The only difference comes in 3-4, where we add the tangleweed and replace the chomper. 3-5 is another one of our mini games. This time, all the zombies are small, and that is the only change. It's another conveyor belt level. RNG, baby! And after whatever that was, 3-6, 7, 8, and 9 are all pretty similar. While they add unique zombies like the Zomboni and the Dolphin zombies, we use the exact same seed layout for every single level, so they all feel pretty similar. And it's for that reason that we will move right along to the last level of this world. Now moving on to the last level of World 3, where, of course, it is another conveyor belt level, which means tons of RNG! And now, there is something that makes this level unique, and that is primarily comprised of all of the plants that I skipped over us getting in this world, so let's go over them real fast. The 3-peater shoots, you'd guessed it, 3 peas, but in different rows, meaning it's essentially a pea shooter, but for each row. The torchwood lights on fire any peas that go through it, making them do, I believe, double damage. The tall nut is like the walnut, but it can't be jumped over by things like dolphins or pole vaulters. The spikeweed, which when zombies walk over it, does a little bit of damage to zombies walking by. It additionally will pop the tires of any tired zombies, like the Zomboni. The chili pepper, which explodes like the cherry bomb, but instead of being a 3x3 tile area, it just explodes down one single column. Whew, that was a lot of new faces, but other than those, it is just RNG as usual, which means that we can move on to World 4 with the worst gimmick. Yay! So here on World 4, we have a couple different gimmicks, and none of it's particularly fun. First things first, this is another night stage, so sun is no longer falling from the sky, meaning that it's going to be a little bit more difficult to consistently keep sun up for those high value instants later in the run. Gimmick number 2 is, as with the last world, this is still in the pool, so we can't place in the middle 2 rows unless we have lily pads. But these gimmicks aren't what make this annoying. It's the third gimmick. The 3-peater shoots, you'd guessed it, 3 peas, but in different rows, meaning it's essentially a pea shooter, but for each row. The torchwood lights on fire any peas that go through it, making them do, I believe, double damage. The 3-5 is another one of our mini games. This time, all the zombies are small, and that is the only change. It's another conveyor belt level. It's the the fog. Depending on which level you are in this world, a different percentage of the map is just entirely covered by fog. Now, if you look really close, you can see zombies through certain patches of the fog or above the fog in the first row. But I don't know if you guys can tell by the obvious glasses on my face. My eyesight sucks. So I hate this world. Let's just grit our teeth and bear it and move on through this world. Now, starting in 4.1, I want to make something pretty clear. We are going to revisit this world pretty heavily in the upcoming runs. The seed combinations that I chose in this first one made a couple interesting choices, so we'll point them out when we get there, but by and large, I think I did okay. However, our mistakes start in 4.1, where I accidentally brought the fume shroom instead of the lily pad, so I can't actually place anything except for these sea shrooms, which I got at the end of World 3.9 that are like the puff shrooms, but have a longer recharge time and can only be spawned in the pool. Now in 4-2, we are given a way to dispel the fog, which is a godsend, and it is in the form of the Plantern. The Plantern, when placed, will light up an area around it and dispel any fog in its given area. So with 2 of these, we can now see in the fog levels. That being said, 4-2 and 4-3 both look pretty similar, so moving right on to 4-4, where we have a new plant. Now in 4-4, the plant that we get is both a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, the Blover, our new plant, is an easy way to get rid of both the fog and the balloon zombies that you might have seen floating around in 4-3. However, the con is that because we are trying to be as effective as possible with our sun in the speedrun we're doing, we only really want to use the Blover if we hear the blowing up balloon sound effect that says that a balloon zombie is spawned, which means that by and large, for the first half of this level and any level that has a balloon zombie on it, we just can't see. Now this game consists of 3 waves, and there's a strategy to each one of them, and I'll break them down here. Stage 1, there will be a squash that spawns in a vase for every single zombie that spawns, so just simply put a squash down on every zombie that spawns. On round 2, we use the squashes to squash all the high HP zombies, and then for the low HP zombies, we just rapid fire place pea shooters. And then on round 3, panic. Panic. Oh god, I still don't know how to deal with this level. Oh god, just don't die. Okay, here we go. Fixed it. All right, we win. On to the next one. Finally out of the clear from that, but not clear from my weird mistakes. 4-6, I brought a Blover despite there being no balloon zombies. 4-7, I brought the Starfruit for some reason instead of just bringing the Scaredy Shroom like I was supposed to. And then 4-8 and 4-9, I did fine. Would have made some changes in retrospect, but as it stands, let's just get this world done with. Of course, my least favorite world has to go out with a bang, and what a better bang than what is possibly the worst gimmick in this entire game. On the last level of World 4, you just can't see unless the lightning strikes, which means that unlike before, where we were partially blind, we are just completely blind, save for the occasional few seconds of light that we get every time a lightning strikes. This, combined with the weird selection of plants, makes this a very odd last world, but honestly, I just truck through it, place whatever I get, and move right along. Talking with other folks to stream. All right. Finally, we're in World 5, the last world, Roof. Now, Roof is definitely the longest and most difficult part of the speedrun, and we'll try and explain it as best we can here. But in this first run, I will say it gets rough. Now, in this first level, I was supposed to bring the pea shooter and the jalapeno, instead accidentally bringing the pumpkin and the cherry bomb. We wanted the pea shooter because this is our only 1 flag level of World 5, which just means it's really short, and we can actually get some use out of just having easy, lower cost DPS options to put up instead of repeaters, which work better for a longer run. And secondly, we need the jalapeno because it is like the only instant that can reach out to the end of the level, given that right now we can only plant on the pots and we can't plant pots, so we are restricted to just the 5 columns that we have at the start of the round. Now, despite these mispicks, the level goes fine, and at the end we get the pot, so now we can finally get into the weird strategies that make Roof so difficult. Okay, there we go. Now, if you're familiar with the speedrun, you might notice that in 5-2, we didn't use the star fruit, which is at this point pretty well known for being surprisingly good on 5-2 and 5-3. And there's a good reason for it, and that's because this guy has never done this speedrun before and has barely ever practiced starfruit. I just can't get it to work at this point. So we're taking the time loss and just going with rows of repeaters, which we can now make more of given that we have the pot. That being said, 5-2 and 5-3 look almost identical, which honestly I will take, given that the following levels all pretty much consist of gloom shroom strats, which we will go into with 5-4. Starting from 5-4, we unlock the coffee bean, which can wake up nocturnal plants like the fume shroom and the doom shroom. And of these, one stands out as the best DPS in the entire game, the gloom shroom. Now, the only problem with the gloom shroom is that for its DPS to be at max capacity, it has to be right up on the edge of the map, which makes it a very high risk plant. This high risk, combined with the 300 sun cost that it takes to put one of these up, means that if you lose your gloom shroom, you very well could lose a run, and definitely will lose a good amount of time. Luckily, things go okay, and we make it through fine, right along to 5-5, which is this level's minigame level. This minigame is another conveyor belt minigame, but this time instead of getting a bunch of pea shooters or things that can do consistent damage, you just get a bunch of instants, which means that this level can go really slow because you don't have consistent DPS. So if you aren't getting instants, you aren't killing zombies. Now, because of this, 5-5 is pretty consistently a slog to go through, so we're gonna go ahead and skip right past that and on to 5-6, where we have a new zombie that poses a real problem to our gloom strategy. That zombie is, of course, the catapult zombie, which can run over the first plants in the row that it sees, which in our case means it will run over a gloom shroom if it is too close to the edge where it spawns. However, other than the introduction of the catapult zombie, 5-6 and 5-7 both go the same way. Plant gloom shrooms, doom shroom final waves, and profit. 5-8 is where we get our last new zombie, the Gargantuar. Now, the Gargantuar is obviously iconic from Plants vs. Zombies, takes a lot of damage, you need 2 instants to kill it. A lot of our focus should be on getting these Gargantuars dealt with. Luckily, they spawn at very predictable times in the level, but unluckily, at the time, I did not know when those times were. Now, luckily, none of the Gargantuars in 5-8 or 5-9 were able to pose a massive threat to me, particularly because the strategy that I was using was a pretty safe strategy as far as gloom shrooms go, so I was pretty set up every time one came by. And finally, we are on to the last level of this game, and it wouldn't be a final level without conveyor belts, baby. This time, we're looking for a couple things in particular. We want primarily melon poles to be doing our main DPS, because we have one big enemy, the Zomboss, whose health we have to deplete, and we're gonna have to deplete it primarily with a lot of melons and a lot of ice shroom. Yeah, the plant that I hate on most of this run is actually one of the most important plants here, because we can freeze the Zomboss while he's looking down and is vulnerable to taking hits, so that we can get as much damage in as physically possible. Now, jalapenos are also good as just an instant that will do a good chunk of damage to the boss. We want to be using all of our instants on the boss if we can, but other than that, it's really just hoping that we can make it through without deaths, which this time we unfortunately do not. We lost. It's okay, we get right back up, we keep trucking, deal with the RNG that we're given, lose again, oops, and finally, after over 4.5 hours, we beat the game. Done. Oh, I can have my bedtime now. And there we have it, our first full run, clocking in at 4 hours, 37 minutes and some change. We did complete one of our goals with our first run. That's right, pettiness achieved. But All right, we still have a lot of room to improve with this one. I mean, a lot of room to improve. So let's take the second run to look back through and talk about what can be improved. So I'm gonna be nice and not make you watch through a whole other run just to learn the couple optimizations that I pulled off, so I'm gonna list them for you here. First things first, we need to focus on the 50% rule a lot more. Going back through that last run really showed me that we didn't play it like the speedrun, we played it like a fast casual game. We need to be focused on getting the 50% rule off, aka killing 50% of waves, and not just making a pretty board that will catch everybody equally, sure, but we aren't finishing nearly as fast as we should be. And to that extent, a lot of the time in that first run, we were not placing our instants as much, and we need to be placing instants a lot more. Instants are really, really important in this game. And the more that we don't place instants, the longer it takes for the 50% rule to be achieved, and the longer that it takes for us to actually get through these levels. There were also a couple places where we just straight up had the wrong seed layout. Take, for instance, the entirety of Fog, which I used the Puff Shroom instead of the Scaredy Shroom, where the Scaredy Shroom is actually optimal in pretty much every single level of that world. And finally, you know what, I'm gonna say it, might come as a shock, but minimizing deaths in Roof is going to really improve our time. In fact, one might say that is the best time save we can get. And luckily this time we managed to beat Roof without dying, which netted us a substantial amount of time save, bringing our new total down to just over 4 hours and 11 minutes. 12-minute time save. Okay. And with a time like that, we have now just barely satiated our second goal, as this would put us at time of recording at 97th place on the leaderboards. But I'll be honest, I really want to get that sub 4 hour time. So I decided to go for one more run to really sink it in. We had a lot of time save still in that second run. We had a really bad pool on the second attempt. You know, there's time save all over the place. We played Roof pretty meh. You know, we can really make a lot of time happen. So let's get into that third run, and let's just go play by play time wise. Let's get that sub 4 hour time. Run 3 starts off to a great start. In World 1, we continue to make time save back on pretty much every level, golding on 1-5, 1-7, and 1-8. However, when we get to 1-9, no, that's okay. It's all right. You know what? Probably not a sign for what's to come. We'll just keep plowing through. Okay, we actually exit World 1 with 52 seconds lost. But I think it'll be okay. I think we can pull time back in night. I'm pretty good at night, so we can get good. And you know, we start off with a good start. World 2-1, we get another gold. In fact, we gold so many levels that we almost don't leave World 2 almost a minute behind. Almost. But honestly, it's okay, because like I said earlier, in our second run, our levels in pool were god awful. So we have a lot of time saved to make up here. In fact, so much time saved that we're not just leaving a minute ahead or 2 minutes ahead, we are over 4 minutes ahead of last time. And our time save doesn't just stop in pool. In Fog, we get a bunch of time save on almost every level, creeping us eventually over the 6 minutes worth of time save mark. All we have to do is have a decent Roof, and we've got it made. We've got the sub 4 hour. And you know what? It gets even crazier, because Roof, the time save just keeps adding up. I mean, halfway through, we're at 9 minutes of time save, but by the time we get to the Zomboss, we have over 11 minutes of time save. As long as we have the exact same Zomboss that we had last time, we have sub 4 hour. And we are so close to finishing, but something goes wrong. I just need the ice shroom. God damn it. I'm dead. I lost. God fucking. I lost. Now I get the ice shroom. almost had it, man. We lose. And by the time we finally beat the Zomboss, our sub 4 hour is sub 4 hour no more. But it's done. God damn it. Oh. I was so close. All right, I'll level with you guys. I've been keeping a little secret. See, after this run, I was so bummed. I really thought that my third run, I would get my sub 4 hour time. You know, I'd have my perfect arc. Oh, I have 3 goals. And then by the time I hit my third run, I've hit my third goal. You know, I was like, oh, perfect. And I almost had it. But one level screwed me up. Nah. I gave it one more shot. I didn't do it on stream. I did it by myself, just sitting in my room, zoned in, had one goal, and that was to get my sub 4 hour time. So let's roll the tape, the secret 4th run. And there it is, gamers. Our sub 4 hour. Oh, man. Running this game is exhausting. It's a really fun game to run, but it is exhausting to do continuous 4-hour runs. So obviously I'm not gonna continue to run this game every day like I did for this week. But if you're interested, I am still running the game every Monday on twitch.tv/yourgoodpalmaxim. Hopefully we're gonna hit some new goals. Right now I'm looking at sub 350, because I mean, even in this run we've got a lot of time save still to make up. We just need to get better. We need to get more consistent. But you know, I hope you guys enjoyed. This took a while to make and edit. I'm tired. I'm gonna go, but y'all have a good one, and I hope to see you for the next one. I've got more fun videos coming out. Y'all have a great time. Peace.